Let's just talk about this further. We're joined by Alok Bansal, Director, India Foundation. Alok Bansal, what do you make of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's address? It kind of sums up the sentiment that has been expressed, not just by the Indian government, after these incidents that have taken place between India and Pakistan following Pahalgam and then following the strike, Operation Sindoor, that took place at the 9 terror camps, but a strong message to the world as well, not just Pakistan.
See, firstly, I think the Prime Minister's address was primarily addressed to countrymen, though of course it had messages for the international community. And he began by saying that India displayed its strength as well as patience. That's important, that we have been displaying our strength and patience. And then he saluted the valor that was shown by armed forces, and here he actually saluted the gallant soldiers who showed extreme valor for attainment of objectives of Operation Sindoor, which was very, very important. What is more important is that he highlighted the country remained united against terrorism, and he said unity is our strength. Now this is very important. He also said that Lord Buddha preached peace, but this peace can only be attained through strength, and that strength needs to be used if required. He also said that during this particular operation, we killed more than 100 odd terrorists. And he also made a very, very important point where he said that we will not make a distinction between governments sponsoring terrorism and the leaders of terrorism. And he also said that this, whatever the stoppage is, this is firstly temporary suspension. If something, we will watch and observe Pakistan's actions. We'll be free to take actions. If something happens, we'll continue to defend our countrymen. And he also highlighted in lecture the highlight of made in India defense equipment. And this is what I have been saying, that because this particular conflict, we saw how effective some of the indigenous defense equipment and systems were, especially Akash, BrahMos, etc. And of course, he also said what he had been saying earlier, that this is not an era of war, but also not of terrorism. Now, this is very important. He says zero tolerance against terrorism would continue. And he says the way Pak army and the government have been nurturing terrorism, they have been providing them fertilizer, manure for this. This is going to bite Pakistan one day. It will destroy Pakistan. And they'll have to learn. And of course, what the famous statement that you said, that terror and talk cannot continue together, terror and trade cannot continue together, and water and blood cannot flow together. He said that if now we are going to talk to Pakistan, the talks are only going to be on terrorism and POK. So this, to my mind, in sum total, the important points that he highlighted, the 2-3 key takeaways from this was, he propounded unity. That's very important. He talked of India being united, and that's a very important message that went. The second important message which he made to Pakistan was very, very important, that the Pakistan government and army has been nurturing these terrorists, have been providing them environment and essential nutrients to sustain terrorism. So that factor needs to be understood, and he said that this will eventually destroy Pakistan in days to come, and that factor he highlighted. Another thing which he talked about was that he named all the armed forces, intelligence agencies as well as scientists for their valor, and talked about indigenous defense equipment. I think these were very important points, I think, which were highlighted and which were the key thrust. He told the countrymen that and congratulated them on this great achievement of attainment of objectives, and told them that it is, in case Pakistan doesn't mend its way, we are there to again take actions as we deem appropriate.
Yes, and he's also made it very clear that for now India will remain vigilant, will keep watching what Pakistan does, what sort of attitude, he said, it adopts in the days ahead, because this cessation or stoppage of military action that India agreed to or reached an understanding with Pakistan was because their DGMO reached out to us and said that it will not indulge, I am quoting the Prime Minister here, that Pakistan will not indulge in any sort of terror activities or military audacity any further. And this is when India considered Pakistan's appeal really, which is why Pakistan will be under the scanner, and even if it does any little mischief, India has already said any future act of terror will be treated as an act of war. So, this much, there is no mincing of words there, it is very clear what that means.
See, there is no doubt about it. In fact, he has made it very clear that if Pakistan doesn't mend its way, India is bound to strike. What is very important for me was that he highlighted very clearly that how Pahalgam terrorist attack was an attempt to create divisions within country, and how it was intended to create disharmony, and but the country stood together, and killing innocent citizens in the name of religion, etc., was a gruesome act, and it was also a disgusting attempt to break the harmony and unity of the country. Now, this is a very, very important facet. He highlighted how unity was essential, and he appealed to countrymen to remain united. And this is what is very important. He said every citizen, every community, every class, and every political party unitedly stood up for strong action against terrorism.
Yes.
And what he again reiterated what he had said earlier, that we gave full freedom to our armed forces to wipe out the terrorists.
And he's also prescribed for Pakistan what it needs to do very clearly again in his speech, where he said that it needs to destroy its terror infrastructure. That's another thing that India wants, for which there does not need to be, I mean, there's no need for any talks. Pakistan has to just act and show, demonstrate not just to India but to the world that it is now, it has now turned a new leaf after the kind of lesson that it has learned from these 3 or 4 days of what has happened with India, and it's mending its ways.
There is no doubt. In fact, he not only that, I think probably for the first time, he told Pakistan very clearly that this terrorist infrastructure will eventually destroy you. So you need to eradicate. He also talked about Murid Ke and Bahawalpur, how they were universities of terror, and they were actually the epicenters of global terror. They were not only affecting us. In fact, all the big terrorist attacks in the world, be it 9/11, be it London tube bombing, or the big terrorist attacks that have happened in India, all had their roots somehow connected to these two terrorist hideouts, that is Murid Ke and Bahawalpur. So these were highlighted, and in fact, he also said the terrorists had wiped out the Sindoor of our sisters, and India responded by destroying them. So till this operation, many terrorist leaders were roaming freely in Pakistan for quite some time, and they said that Pakistan was deeply frustrated by this attack by India, and of course this was clearly exhibited by their retaliation against India's military targets, which were promptly neutralized. The Pakistan targeted our schools, colleges, gurudwaras, temples, and civilian housings. It also targeted our military bases, but all this were actually countered, and it also exposed Pakistan. And the world saw how Pakistan's military equipment like drones and missiles fell like 9 pins, or you can say fell like straws in front of India. India's strong air defense system destroyed them in sky itself. And of course, Pakistan had also made preparations to attack India on border, but India gave Pakistan a befitting reply. India's drones and missiles attacked Pakistan with precision. They damaged many air bases of the Pakistan Air Force, on which Pakistan till then was extremely proud. India and Indian armed forces eventually caused heavy damage to the Pakistan in first 3 days, which it had never imagined. And that's why after India's aggressive action, Pakistan started looking for ways to escape, and Pakistan was pleading with the global community to ease tensions. And after suffering heavy losses when their DGMO contacted our DGMO in the afternoon of 10th May. And since we had attained most of our objectives and had destroyed most of their infrastructure of terrorism on a large scale, we accepted the cessation of further military activities.
Yes,
And he
one thing that the
clearly,
PM
I'm
did not really elaborate much on, only hinted perhaps, was the kind of attitude that Pakistan had when it was given a befitting reply by India, and then after that, yet because it was not willing to accept the truth, it created a fog of disinformation, really, which sowed a lot of confusion in different parts of the world, not just in India and Pakistan. And Pakistan has a very well rehearsed playbook which it employed here. That treachery has been exposed as well by the DGMOs over the last 2 days, today and yesterday, because all the action that India took has been well documented. A lot of them are viral videos, really, and they're all over the internet now, aren't they?
Not only that, we provided them credible evidence in terms of photographs, etc.
Yeah, there were timestamps, everything.
And he also said that we have defeated Pakistan every time on the battlefield. And of course, this time Operation Sindoor has added a new dimension. We have displayed our capabilities in deserts, mountains, and have also proved our superiority in new age warfare. During this operation, so what is important is that the authenticity of made in India weapon systems were also proved. Today, the world is witnessing made in India defense equipment in 21st century warfare. So, and finally, again, he reiterated this unity point, which I wanted to highlight. He says, our greatest strength is our unity against all form of terrorism. This is certainly not an era of war, but this is also not the era of terrorism. Zero tolerance against terrorism is guarantee for a better world.
Yes,
so,
certainly. The reference to...
He went on to say the way Pakistan army, Pakistan government are encouraging terrorism, it will destroy Pakistan, one thing.
Yes.
It is actually a sane piece of advice which many international leaders from time to time have been giving Pakistan. If you remember from Hillary Clinton's time, who said that if you keep snakes in your backyard and expect that they'll bite only your neighbors, you are mistaken. So from that time onwards, I think a lot of global leaders have been giving this advice. And now Prime Minister Modi has again told Pakistan that this terror infrastructure will eventually destroy you. And he says if Pakistan has to survive, then it will have to destroy its terror infrastructure. There is no other way to peace. And India's stand is very clear. And then, of course, he made that.
Yes, I'd also like your comment on the part where he said that this Operation Sindoor has set a new benchmark of how terrorism will be tackled by India going forward. It's a new normal.
Now, what it shows is that here and after, if there is going to be a similar attack, we are going to go inside and eliminate wherever those terrorists are, anywhere inside Pakistan. And please understand, this time during Operation Sindoor, we went deep inside. We not only attacked Bahawalpur, which is almost more than 100 kilometers from Indian boundary, we also targeted Jacobabad, which is virtually in the center of Pakistan, virtually in northern Sindh, close to boundary with the Baluchistan. So this is now a new normal, and they know we can target anywhere, and Pakistan needs to understand that if ever again there is an attack, we will take prompt action which could result in elimination of these terrorist camps anywhere, wherever they may be, across length and breadth of Pakistan.
And he also said that India has already, in fact, made it clear that it will not tolerate any nuclear blackmail. This is the third time that India has demonstrated it, after Uri, Balakot, and now Operation Sindoor.
Yeah, that was also a very, very important factor, because he said this operation has very clearly indicated that we will not be cowed down by this nuclear blackmail. And I think we have shown that this nuclear blackmail is a hogwash. We will not allow terrorism to flourish under this nuclear blackmail. And I think this was very clearly evident. Despite this nuclear bogey which Pakistan had been raising time and again, Indian forces went and struck deep deep inside, as I said, Jacobabad, north of Karachi, you saw strikes in Bahawalpur, their main Chaklala Air Base, which is actually close to Rawalpindi, their GHQ, then of course Sargodha, one of their biggest air bases. So many major targets of Pakistan, many major bases of Pakistan were targeted during this particular operation. And this highlighted to the world the capabilities of India, and also highlighted to the world that this nuclear blackmail is nothing but a hogwash.
Right. And although the PM did not really make a mention, specific mention of Pakistan's ironclad friends, and we all know who they are, do you think the message to them is also pretty clear?
I think again, my view is that throughout this conflict, I think China also did not issue any statement, and only after cessation of hostilities was there, Chinese did talk to Pakistani foreign minister and said that we respect your sovereignty. And at the same time, he also spoke to Indian NSA and said, he criticized the Pahalgam attack and said that we criticize terrorism in any form, in every form. So I think Chinese by and large maintained an equidistant, though of course Chinese equipment played a major role as far as Pakistan's armed forces were concerned. But since China maintained a more or less a neutrality, and this was of course a sore point as far as Pakistani media and Pakistani commentators were concerned, I think Prime Minister did not mention anything against them. He in fact did not mention about anybody else, including the United States, where President Trump had been claiming great credit for bringing about this rapprochement. So that was, I think, the right step. I think Prime Minister did not mean to bring in anybody else. He did give a message to the international community that yes, terror and talks will not go on. If at all ever this thing happens, we retain the right of retaliation. We have given you the new normal. Any terrorist attack will strike deep inside Pakistan, wherever those terrorists may be. And water and blood will not flow, that indicating that Indus Water Treaty, at least for the time being, will remain in abeyance till the time Pakistan gives a foolproof proof of its good behavior or good conduct.
Alok Bansal, if I could just ask you to bear with me for a little while longer. I'm joined by my colleague as well from New Delhi itself, Dubhendu Mandral. Dubhendu, the sense that you are getting from among the people, if you could tell us about that after the Prime Minister's nationwide address, what do the people make of it? The message that he delivered was of unity and of strength. Has that been received by the people? Do they acknowledge that what India has done through the course of the last 3 or 4 days with Pakistan is an ample display of that?
Well, Gautam, absolutely. This is for the first time ever that, any prime minister dared to go deep inside Pakistan and uproot terrorism. I was listening to the prime minister when he was speaking. He did speak about the terror sites such as Bahawalpur and Muridke. These two were the hotbeds and the hot centers of terrorism in Pakistan. And the Indian government, the Indian army, under the guidance of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has been able to make precise attack on these terror hubs deep inside Pakistan. So therefore, there is a sense of accomplishment within the people of this country. Of course, the people are very happy that we have been able to strike and attack where it matters and where it hurts the most, as the Prime Minister also spoke about the same. It is, of course, for the first time again, we did strike simultaneously at 9 spots, 9 terror hubs, some in the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, and of course, at least 2 in the mainland Pakistan. So therefore, this makes a massive difference amongst the actions that were earlier taken on terror, and now the action that is being taken on terror. And of course and Prime Minister's message that that Sindoor, which is considered to be very, very auspicious for Hindus. And why I say Hindus is because the terrorist attacked people based on their religion. They were asked what religion are they from, and after which they were attacked. So therefore, this messaging has gone down exceptionally well amongst the people when when the Prime Minister said that, the sacrifice of the women and their sindoors, will not go in vain, and therefore, the government, the army, the military, the air force, each of the three services have done exceptionally well. Everybody is very proud of our army, of our government, of our Prime Minister for taking such bold step in weeding out terrorism, striking at the heart of the harbor of terrorist and a terror nation like Pakistan. But of course, people are, of course, very critical of the fact that, instead of siding with the government of India in terms of weeding out terrorism from its land of Pakistan, the Pakistani government instead attacked our civilians, attacked gurdwaras, attacked temples, as well as our military establishment. From the very first day, Gautam, remember, the government, the army have been very, very particular about the fact that we have targeted the terror hubs of Pakistan. We did not cause any damage to the civilians or to the military establishment of Pakistan. But Pakistan did not understand that. They wanted to escalate. The government had to respond back, because it is about the protection of the people of this country. And of course, that will not be, taken down lightly with this government, or for that matter by the army. They are always prepared. They have been prepared. We were constantly getting briefings from the army as to the nefarious activities of the Pakistani military. Each day we were seeing swarm of drones. For what? Because India attacked their terrorist sites. Of course, one cannot forget about the pictures which also the Prime Minister spoke about, and people across, we have been speaking to people both in Delhi as well as elsewhere in the country, that people were saying that it has exposed Pakistan, because the pictures speaks for themselves. The army in their uniform were seen standing during the funeral prayers of terrorists. So of course, this is exposed. Along with the terrorists. So therefore, this has exposed Pakistan and its hand in glove attitude with the terrorist, and how Pakistan military has been, and I wouldn't shy from saying this, that the Pakistan military has been sponsoring terror and terror related activities on the soil of India. Gautam.
Yes, certainly. And Alok Bansal, I would also like you to comment on the way the Prime Minister ended this address to the nation, where he referred to the fact that today is Buddha Purnima, how Lord Buddha showed the world the path of peace, but at the same time he mentioned how the nation, when it required, needs to come across in a very powerful manner, for which it needs to be in a powerful position as well. So the blueprint that the Prime Minister has been charting out ever since he came to Delhi in 2014 to become the executive head of the nation, it figures very prominently in his address to the nation as well, it seems.
See, he said on the day of Buddha Purnima, he says Lord Buddha taught the path of peace, but for peace, you need to be powerful, and you should be able to use this power if required. So this is a very important principle that long back somebody had said, if you want peace, be prepared for war. So I think that's what he said. In other words, it's the Lord Buddha has shown us the path of peace, but we need to be powerful to have this sort of peace. And
there's some elements of the Bhagavad Gita there as well.
And yes, and we should be willing to use power. That's important. He said we should be willing to use power if required. And of course, he talked about global peace, and he said the global community should move on the path of peace and prosperity. He also talked about making India a developed nation, and how India's growth needs to continue. And of course, he highlighted how Pakistan came begging for peace after Indian armed forces attained all their objectives in eliminating terror hubs, terror nurseries in different parts of Pakistan, as well as targeting most of their aerial infrastructure, airports, etc. And then, of course, since India had already attained its objectives, it agreed to the seizure of cessation of hostilities.
Yes, and we're also hearing, Alok Bansal, about what has transpired as far as that meeting of the DGMOs was concerned that took place. The second round of the meeting, it was supposed to happen at noon today, got postponed to 5 p.m. and we'll be sharing those details with our viewers very soon as well. But clearly that indicates that, as Prime Minister Modi himself said, that Pakistan needs to remain on tenterhooks because of the kind of campaign that India had as part of Operation Sindoor against terrorism. And when Pakistan supported terrorists instead of supporting India,